right, so now it's you. So tell us who you are, what you're doing here, what you do, and if you have plans for the summer.
Great, I'm happy to. Well, thank you all so much for being here. My name's Alina. I work alongside Mark at Spokane Public Library, and we both work very closely together on the Startup Spokane work. Mark is the brains behind the Startup Spokane, in addition to our coworker over at Spokane County Library District, and then I help out with a lot of the marketing for Startup Spokane. And then a lot of, and my job at the library is marketing manager. And so I'm grateful to be able to, this building was actually where I had my interview for the library. Nice. Over in Studio E. So this building has a very special place in my heart. And my favorite color is yellow. And then my summer plans, I would say keeping it really low key this summer. I just started getting into gardening. Yeah, so I planted some tomato plants. Nice. And that's all. But it's going to grow from there. Nice. And yeah, my aunt has a place over at Diamond Lake that I like to go to a lot. So excellent. It's beautiful. Yeah. Okay,
so remind me, because I'm not going to get it right. We titled this one, How to Create a Strategic Marketing Campaign. Is that what we nailed down?
I can't remember either.
I know. I feel like
but we're going to give you exactly what we put out there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. I always do this with all my guests, and I've got a former guest here with Kelly in the room, but I like to make sure that we're all talking the same language before we get going. So let's start with like just a simple, your working definition of marketing.
Yeah, I was kind of talking to Kelly about this earlier, of just saying, I think it's really how you tell your story and understanding the customers and audience that you are talking to. And so marketing for me is very relationship building. I think for most of us it is, because I think a lot of it is, like I had said, understanding your customers and knowing what their demographics are, what their hobbies are, what more information about them, and of course always looking to Mark to help out with finding that information. And so knowing them, and then also being able to know the value of what you offer and how you can meet the needs of your demographic. Right, and so I think, yeah, telling a story and knowing your audience, I think, are the two biggest things, and really knowing the value of your product or service.
Nice. And okay, so let's do this. We have to define strategy now. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
So a lot of the times I have to remind myself of to step back from what I'm doing and look at the more strategic picture. And so I think strategy for me is kind of like what my plan of action is, looking at all of the different elements that make up your story and your audience, and maybe the different ways that you can say, okay, this audience or this demographic over here has this behavior, so I'm going to market this way to this demographic. And then I'm going to look over here and say, okay, I also have audience over here that has this demographic and these needs, and that's how I'm going to market over here. So just understanding, kind of pairing the two together, which we'll talk about in a moment, because I know that's our next question.
Yes.
Not to say that we pre-planned these questions, but but I think saying that the strategy is kind of the plan of action that you filter your marketing plan through.
Every good host plans out questions ahead of time.
Yes.
Nobody comes in here. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but I'm sure somebody does it.
Right.
All right. So we're talking about strategic marketing campaigns. So let's define that. Like, what do you mean when you say a strategic marketing campaign?
Mm-hmm. So for me, a strategic marketing campaign is backing up, taking that bird's eye view and getting a clear understanding of what's in front of you in terms of your audience, your product or service that you're trying to market. And for a lot of us, we have multiple elements or multiple products or services that our businesses can that offer. So understanding, okay, at this moment, this is like what the product or service we're wanting to bring some light to, we're wanting to pay attention to and get customers to pay attention to. So understanding, okay, this is the value of this product or service, and then understanding, okay, so with that in mind, how can what should be our target audience from that? developing a target audience based on your understanding of how this product or service can meet the need, and then trying to figure out from there, okay, what are the different avenues to which I can help get the word out about this product or service to these key demographic, to your key demographic. And trying to understand timeline of your marketing campaign, audience, how you want to situate your product or service a lot of the times, and by that I mean how you want to market it, like how you want to tell the story of it so that it lands with the customer in the best way possible. And so for me, it's really taking that bird's eye view, understanding, okay, what product or service, what needs does this meet, and then trying to understand, okay, well, this is what needs and wants does the audience have? And if you're building a business, you kind of have to go backwards on that, right? Looking at, okay, what needs do need to be met within this key demographic or market, and then you can almost kind of like build a business plan around that.
I think it's important that you're focusing on the needs of your audience so often, and you'll see this especially on social media and all this stuff. The companies are, it doesn't seem like they're actually focused on the problems they solve or their customers' problems or like how their product or service is a match for maybe the need, right? So how do you go through that process of tracking that down? Like if I'm going to create a campaign, it sounds like it starts with the audience and understanding that. How do we go through the process of tracking that down and not just assuming we understand what the problems are or how we solve them?
Well, this is actually really timely because at the library our team is working on a campaign that I reached out to Mark and I was like, hey, can we meet so we can look at some of the key demographics of our different neighborhoods. So like, for example, we're wanting to do a campaign, and you'll get the sneak peek of this and you'll probably see more of this later, but we're working on a campaign that really tells real stories at the library, and that is from everything from, and a lot of it is centered around how the library you build connections at the library, and whether you are an unhoused individual, a teen, or a parent. A lot of the times these three specific audience types experience the highest amount of loneliness, I would say. And so trying to position us of saying like, here are real stories of people and how the library can help them find community and find resources in order to help give them connections and move forward. So kind of coming back to that question, understanding, we wanted to do a big campaign. We normally want to do like one big campaign per year. And so what do we want to focus on? Okay, well, what issues are we currently facing at the library right now, right? And a lot of it is people struggle to understand the reason, like when you think of the library, a lot of the times people think, oh gosh, there's a lot of homeless people there. And unfortunately that has a negative connotation for people. So how can we share that, well, yes, there are unhoused individuals here because it's one of the only places they can go throughout the day where they are welcome, as so long as everyone follows our code of conduct, but also trying to help them understand that it's way more than just unhoused individuals. You've got people who are wanting to build a business plan. You've got people who are coming to use the free computers. You've got people who are using the media studios or putting their hands in the discovery garden at gardening programs at Shadle Park Library. So really trying to understand, okay, we want to change the perception of how people look at the library. So then we're working and we're diving into that and we're saying, okay, what are trackable measures of how we can say, this is what we want the campaign to be. These are our target audiences we've kind of focused on. How can we then take that and track success of campaign? So I think that tracking is really important. A lot of the times with marketing, it's easy to just like throw a message out there and just like hope it sticks, No
one does that.
Yeah, yes they do. I know, but it's like so easy to throw it out there and hope it sticks, right? But I think a lot of the times it's coming back and reminding ourselves, how can we track the success of this, right? So we're looking into what are the what neighborhoods in town have the highest density of library card holders? And then saying, okay, based on that, what are the populations, what are the neighborhoods that have the least number of library card holders? And how can we go into those neighborhoods and help share with them all of these different resources and connect them based on those key audiences? Can we connect them to these services? So it's looking at just all of these, we've got the product or service, we've got the audiences, we've got understanding your trackable, like your how are you going to track your success? And then from there, you can kind of get into the more nitty gritty of building messaging and visuals and all of that. But you have to really understand your product and service, the value of it, and your audience and their needs.
Can we take a detour into defining success?
Yeah.
And because I think a lot of times that's the missed step. I think people will tend to have a pretty good maybe definition of marketing, or at least what they understand it to be. They might understand that they need to know their audience, although it's still a mistake if you say your product is for everyone. That's not true. Like, I hate to tell you that. And we can talk more about that if you want. But understanding success and defining it, I actually had this down as a question that the library, you don't generate revenue in the traditional way.
Correct.
So where some of us here in the room, like we might define success by revenue, and then maybe we have some other sub goals or something. But my buddy Andrew, right? So his strategic campaign might be centered around his grand opening. So he needs to define those goals. So let's walk through, like, where do we start if we're trying to define, success metrics or whatever it is?
Right. So I also worked in the credit union world for like 7 years. So I did work for a business that had that got, that was, it's not for profits, it was a not for profit because it's a credit union, but
they're still looking at revenue in dollars.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think understanding the success, I would say when I worked in the credit union world, it was understanding, okay, how are we doing as financially as a whole as a credit union? Do we need more investments? Do we need more checking accounts? Do we need more loans? So understanding what we need as an organization, and understanding, okay, this is kind of what our organizational mission is right now. We're trying to get more loans so that we can then, have more funds to be able to loans are just it's like, do you need more loans or do you need more accounts? There's kind of this like back and forth with credit unions.
But you can already see there that those are two different things that we're talking about, right? So if we're talking about we need more loans, that's a different audience, whether it's home or auto or whatever, versus we just need more account holders, right? So I can already start seeing how you define those goals differently. Right? Okay, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but that was just like I wanted to pause there and make sure people heard that.
Right, and I think, so this kind of goes into like targeted marketing, right? Because like you said, when you target to everyone, the message then doesn't land with anyone. And so that's oftentimes why you have to segment things and target your marketing messages. So you have to find your key audience. If you market to everyone, everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, I don't relate to that, because it's not directly towards me. And so they don't feel that buy-in. Whereas when you say, okay, yes, we have all of these customers and that's awesome, but where's the gap here for us? Let's find the gap of where we want to increase library card holderships, which neighborhood, or do we need more loans, or do we need more checking accounts, or do I notice that certain businesses need more, that these businesses are kind of lacking in their understanding to develop pitches for themselves, like understanding, okay, this is kind of the market that we're working with, and then let's focus on that market. Yes, all of these other customers still matter and you can still do things for them, but maybe your target is right here for right now, and that's where your focus can be.
You can actually see that playing out right now with STCU and their target on businesses.
Totally.
Right? And whether or not it's a good campaign, that's another conversation. But they're very much going after businesses, and you can see that in their "Let's Be Frank" or whatever it is campaign. And does it mean that the other people aren't important? No, it's just what they're trying to drive. So to Andrew's point, right? He's trying to open a coffee shop. Should he send out a direct mail piece to everyone in Spokane? Probably not. He should probably target coffee drinkers within the radius of his store that he thinks they might drive to go. Right? And it's not commuters he's looking at, because you're not going to have a drive-through window at that location. So he's looking for people who need a meeting or want to start their day.
Business meetings.
Or pop in and grab a thing. It's a different campaign. And making sure that you nail that and understanding you don't solve the need of quick coffee on the go. You solve the need of delicious coffee that I have to wait just a little longer for and come in and get, right? Like, and that's,
Yeah.
there's an audience for that.
Right. I mean, if you think of a lot of different places, like when I think of, specifically going with that coffee shop example of when I think of a coffee shop that I'm going to not drive through, I want it to have a really cool vibe. And I want it to be somewhere where I can sit and read and where I can just like having other people around me is just like, is comforting, but I don't have to talk to anybody, like if I don't want to, I can just sit there and read or work on my own thing or have a meeting, but like everybody else is just kind of vibing, doing their own thing. That's so nice, and I think, you can utilize things like some of the Startup Spokane Library resources to better understand who you might want to market to in that situation, right? And so you would want to talk to Mark about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think about like your point too, and it's a little off the track of strategic marketing campaign, but the idea that understanding if it's not a drive-through and you're going in, it's got to have a good vibe. It's got to that comes back to the need thing, right? That would be understanding the audience and going, okay, they're not going to be able to drive through. They're going to be coming in. What is the expectation of somebody who's coming in? I think about breweries a lot with that example.
Yeah.
Like very rarely do you find the brewery that has good beer and a good location. Usually it's like, oh, the location is outstanding, but the beer's okay, or the beer's amazing, but boy, is it loud in here. Like there's, I haven't found one that's like the perfect blend yet. And I think they're missing, what is it that they're offering? You can't, and maybe they think we can't do both. It's really hard to make really good beer and invest in a space. I don't know.
Right. Well, continue that search and follow up.
I will. I'll let you know.
Yeah, because I'm curious.
Back to goals. What we've been talking about is like these primary ones, right? Primary goal. What about other goals? Should we set other success metrics when it comes to building a strategic campaign and being mindful
Yes.
of that?
I think I'll answer that, and then if it's not giving you the answer you want, let me know, and I can.
No, it's fine.
And we
You're going to answer it, I promise.
So I think there's a lot of different metrics that you can find. So for us, it's understanding in this future campaign that we're doing. Okay, what neighborhoods need have the fewest cardholders? So then we can take that and we can say, let's get a base number to go off of, and then run this campaign. Do all of these efforts, specifically when it comes to direct digital marketing for us. I think that's really where we're going to lean into, because digital marketing can be a very cost-efficient way to get your messaging out there. So I think we're going to lean heavily into the digital marketing campaign within certain zip codes based on the library cardholdership. And so then do kind of an after, this is how we've increased, this hopefully we will have increased the number of cardholders and re-engaged with some of the people in those specific neighborhoods so that they say, oh wow, okay, I didn't realize the library had all of these things, When you go to, for example, I went to Starbucks and last year when we were, or earlier this year actually, because we were running our big campaign that went at the end of last year to this year. And it was all about how the library can help you become your best self, whether you're wanting to learn gardening, learn how to cook, start your own business, learn how to play a musical instrument, all of these different things. And so we had this really amazing video that was with the help of Theta State Studios and Midnight Waffles, an animation company. They worked together to then create this really beautiful video, and we used like Hulu, Spotify, social media ads, all of that. And I had someone at Starbucks was like, oh, I just love that video that you have up right now. And, even just seeing your ad out in like organically, I saw my ad on Hulu at my friend's house and I was like, yay, that's us, So just being able to see that feedback and hear that feedback is so meaningful and just kind of really nods to the fact that you are getting into the right target market of what you're looking at.
Anecdotal evidence, right? Like it's, you mark it down, you pay attention to it. Is it the same thing as that primary goal? Did you win?
Right.
Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but it's important. So like with Business Brew, I'm always looking at, first off, butts and seats, right? How many people do we draw in? The second thing would be how many people watched online, which isn't happening at this moment, which is fine. And then the third thing is did people know what was happening?
Right.
So if people are telling me, hey, how did Business Brew go? Or how's Business Brew going? Or I wish I could be there. Or just even the comments and the engagement in the posts, that becomes like that third goal, because if you're getting 1,000 people seeing it, and maybe not 1,000 people showed up, but you know it's reaching the right audience, that can be a win.
Yeah.
And for some business owners, that doesn't always feel like it because it doesn't generate real-time dollars like in this moment. But it is important to keep track of.
Yeah.
Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I think that really lends itself to brand awareness.
Yeah.
You know, you want people to know you're out there. And when people know you're out there, yeah, you may not be seeing direct dollars as a like, oh, now I know that company's out there, but the more they see you out there, like I think of billboards as like a really great understanding of brand awareness. Because I think like
they're having like a comeback right now.
They are, yes.
Billboards.
Yeah.
And they're expensive.
They're very expensive. If you want a successful billboard campaign, you're looking at about $10,000.
Yeah.
So if you...
Well, by the way, also, I didn't say this. You can jump in with questions. It doesn't have to be all me. There is a microphone.
Yeah.
We might have to give it to Will because he just said something. So Bev, can you pass it back there? I want to jump in with this, but feel free to throw a shoe at me or something to get my attention. So I'm not just hogging it.
It might take me a couple of tries to articulate this. It's oftentimes when you talk to somebody in marketing, they always open with that. They say you want to know your audience. You want to know your audience. So what I want to know is if you're able to talk about it, is if you're building these customer personas beyond local demographics. Let's say that you're making YouTube videos or you've got some kind of educational material that you're trying to offer, whatever else. You're building these customer personas, bulking them out with the information and building the resulting ontologies. What high-level strategies do you use to go after that information for that discovery without resulting to just local demographics, income, neighborhood, that sort of thing?
Okay, let's go a little bit deeper so I can better understand your question. So I'm going to repeat it, and then you're going to let me know if I understand it right. So once you kind of have developed those personas, how do you then market to those personas?
How do you
Okay.
develop the personas? Like how do you go about
Oh.
So this is one area where I've always had a little bit of a struggle.
Totally.
And so when you're making a persona, you're developing the ontology that fits around them,
Right.
So you understand that particular customer, that segment that you want to target. How do you discover their habits? It's easy to discover
Yeah.
their income. It's easy to
Yeah.
discover, where they live at.
Great question.
But how do they think? How do they feel? What sort of other media, businesses, things do they interact with that you can target at that point? What resources do you use to discover that?
Okay, understand now. So a few different things. I would say, yes, you've got your like you said, you can find out income, all of these things through tools, but you can also find out other things like there's a couple of different ways, many different ways. Are you marketing to them digitally? Because if so, you can find out what devices they're using. Are they using desktop? Are they using mobile? Are they using tablet? How does your product fit within those things? Are you marketing? Are you an electronics company and you're wanting to reach out to people who are using maybe the desktops more and saying like, hey, let's take this on the go. Let's figure out how you can then, like buy this product essentially and get, this same service but on the go at any time. So that's a very simple example, but I think it also depends on a few things like that. Like, are you wanting to do more digital, more in person? Because you also have things like focus groups. You've got surveys, which are incredibly valuable, and especially when you're pulling random people from the community to then come in and have that more anecdotal conversation to where you can find a little bit more about behaviors and hobbies and interests, specifically when it comes to because you'll get to hear those conversations. I've been in a couple of focus groups. Those are extremely enlightening. The focus groups that are done right often cost money because you have to pay for a moderator, you have to pay for a focus group company, but they can be extremely enlightening. Same with surveys. And then I also think just being out in the community. So like, let's say you are trying to have these, trying to sell these or sell your product of like, let me help you with these pitches. And then, but you're like, okay, who do I need to go to and who do I need to market to? So maybe start going to events and networking events to understand the different audience members that you could potentially, that you could potentially focus in on. Because then you might find something or find a different persona or a different audience member that you may not have realized before because you're opening up your understanding a little bit more at these other events. So I I think that, and generally understanding too the community as a whole, like Spokane's very last minute. And we're a big lake community. So like in the summer, it's very hard to get people to go to things. And then also a lot of the times people like RSVP or register like very last minute.
Yeah.
Like a much higher level beyond the local community, beyond
Yeah.
the demographic in which you sit.
Yes. Do you have any like, I guess, so you're thinking, are you wanting to like nationally or globally? Is that kind of what you're thinking? Okay, so that is a really good question, and I personally don't have a ton of experience with that because a lot of my jobs have been very hyper-localized. I work for a local credit union with 3 branches, I work for the library, Spokane Public Library. It's not like I can move that to like Seattle and then work for Spokane Public Library. Like we can't open up another branch in different areas. So that isn't my specialty, but I would say if anyone else has any ideas that they would like to put out there.
Sorry, I told Alina at the beginning, as a fellow marketer,
Yeah.
I have to really hold my tongue
Yeah.
today so I don't take over. But
This is an example of when I would want
one
you to
thing
take
I do,
over.
'cause and I have the pleasure of knowing Will, so I understand, and it's a little bit, I have some background that maybe you don't.
Context, yeah.
But understanding a national audience can be tricky.
Yeah.
One thing that I try to start with when I'm doing that is, what are the competitors or people doing similar work in that space? What are they doing?
Yeah.
What does it seem to be that they're presenting to the market? What is their messaging? And then you have a couple options. The first one is do what they're doing or do the opposite, right? Because you can say, well, they're targeting this group, but that seems to me that it's leaving out this group, and I want to do something different than that, so I can look at doing the opposite. Or you can look at what these, it can be competitors. You mentioned going to networking events, like-minded organizations that operate on a national, level. That can be another place. What are they doing? How are they targeting? So that's where I start. And then also, you kind of mentioned this, but surveys and focus groups, some of that information gets published. And so looking at like Google Scholar and seeing what information's available. Maybe somebody has studied the demographic that you're interested in, and they've come up with the habits, right? And studies are kind of take them or leave them, right? I remember it was one of the morning talk shows. A new study came out, like chocolate helps, eating chocolate every day, you live 5 years longer. And then somebody said, well, I found it's just better to pick a study that you like and just run with it, because there's so many of them and sometimes they say different things. But ultimately, people are doing a lot of this research already. It just might not be in the context that you could search easily. So trying to diversify where you're looking. I like Google Scholar because you can get access to actual academic studies that have been done. And I know you're looking at weightlifters or people who want to get, or who are in the gym, maybe gym rats, maybe not. But maybe there's been a study that's done that would reveal some information about their lifestyle and habits. So,
Mark, go ahead. Mark had a...
Yeah. Give him the... This is why Mark's going to be an annual guest, by the way, at Business Brew, is because of the rich resources that the library offers.
So, I'm just wrapping up teaching their class Eastern. It's their business feasibility class, and the whole purpose of the class is to figure out what need is it that you're trying to solve for them. And I think that businesses often fall into just the demographic rut. And my exercise, so I told them, hey, I'm 51, I'm married, been married for 20-some years, I've got 2 grown kids, and I live in a condo downtown. What kind of car do I drive? And they're like, that tells us nothing.
I was like, you don't.
But when I can tell them, I'm into snowshoeing, and I also want a car that gets really good gas mileage, and my son's really into skiing as well. We like to go camping in the summer. Those things kind of span across the demographic slices, and then it starts getting them like, oh, well, this guy needs a car that's going to do well in the snow, so probably an all-wheel drive, something that's big enough to go camping in. All right, so probably not a sedan, so that gets us more into the Subaru Outback.
I was going to say Subaru.
I'm talking tools.
So the tools that I'm slowly getting to here
Land the plane, Mark. I'm just kidding.
You can do the demographic stuff really simply, really easily all day long. One tool that I'm aware of, and this is in the library's toolbox, we have access to Experian credit reporting data. For better or worse, they're just sitting on.
Yeah, that's take your consumer hat off. Like that creeps me out, and put your marketing hat on, and yeah, just be glad you have the data.
Exactly. So basically, Experian, anytime somebody swipes a credit card, Experian immediately gets a ping, and we can then go through the 72 different household segments that they've classified to see what type of household is most likely to be into weightlifting or into gourmet cooking or gives to environmental charities. They've got 654 lines of data that Experian sifts through, and then they break it out by kind of likelihood of a particular household type to engage in their activity.
Kelly, do you have more to add to that? Oh, you got to pass with it. What did you say? Sorry, Kelly. Oh yeah, AI. Yeah. Just real quick, I want to get back to Alina, but one other thing is I think we don't talk about this, and maybe you can jump in and tell me what you think. Because we have access to so much data as marketers, the tendency is to say, I can't start until I know for sure, and until I have the data and I know the audience and I have everything, I have it drilled down. Sometimes it's okay to go, look, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I weightlift and I enjoy good food, and I don't have to just eat boiled chicken every day. So it's okay to run with that and go, I bet there's people out there that are the same as me. And I sometimes caution against that because you shouldn't be putting out a company that's only what you like. But as a place to start in understanding your audience, it's okay to go, I think this is what might be the right answer.
I mean, that's a lot of what we're coming from, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what we're bringing to the table as marketers is like our personal experience. So, we hear, like, when I tell people, oh, the library does this, this, and this, and this, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they do all of that, Then it's like, okay, well, how can we increase people's understanding of all that the library does, And how can we, so we're taking that personal experience and then trying to turn a campaign, a targeted campaign, turn it into a targeted campaign.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what we do is from personal experience of understanding how our brand sits with certain people or how it doesn't sit with certain people, And so, yeah, I think it's spot on. And then one other thing I would say that kind of came up as we were talking was, I think looking at what's trending as well. I see a lot of things nationally, like a lot of libraries. I also, see a lot of, like, I follow a lot of like running and like gym accounts and stuff like that as well. And I think a lot of the things are, what is trending right now, and how can you embrace what's trending in your brand to kind of get more awareness around it, whether that's, and I'm thinking specifically probably with like digital stuff, but leaning into that can really help increase your brand awareness, make you feel relevant, make you feel like, oh, okay, they get it, So I think, you don't always have to do what's trending by any means, but understanding what's trending and potentially trying to understand why it's trending.
Yeah, like in food, there's always something trending in food, so you can just play off of that. Here's the latest food thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it through my context and make it make sense.
Yeah.
All right, so you had some questions that I know you were excited to get to, so I want to get to those.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one of them was, does every business need every digital platform or every social media platform in order to be successful in their strategic marketing campaigns?
Do you feel like you have the answer to that? I was going to say the answer is no. I don't think, I really think that a lot of people, because social media, specifically social media, is free, I think a lot of the times people think, okay, well, we should have a presence on every single social media platform. But then not really understanding what each social media platform does and serves a purpose for, and who is the audience. So, like for example, we at the library, we secured our name on Threads, but we don't actively post on Threads. We just didn't want somebody else to post on Threads as Spokane Public Library. So we secured our name. Basically, we created an account, and it's like a private situation. Are you okay? Did you spill your coffee on your computer? Okay, I panicked for a second. But we secured it there so no one else can post in place of us, but we're not actively posting there because that's just not where we have decided is the best investment of our
Do you
time.
put a message while you're placeholding it, or did you just literally make it private and then just wait and see?
Nope, we just literally held the name. So if people look, they'll see like, okay, they have an account that, I think, I can't exactly tell you because it's been a minute since I've been on Threads, but just understanding that like you may want to placehold that, or like, for example, on Facebook, sometimes it can be helpful to like, even though you're only populating, let's say Spokane Public Library, the main Facebook page, you might want to claim all of the locations. So that other people don't, and then use those fake accounts for you. But I think that some businesses feel like they have to then post on every single platform. And I think every single platform is so different. You have to know your audience when you're talking about, so when you're getting on the social media train. And I think that's very important. I will say the number one thing apart from social media that I would say that you really, really want to focus on in your biggest branch of all, regardless of if you have a brick and mortar store or not, is your website. That to me is like a gold mine for everything. And your website should have, like when people go to your website, think about that they're immediately on a treadmill as soon as they start on your website. And if you've heard of Donald Miller and the story brand, building a story brand, this is all part of that book, which is absolutely amazing. Because it really helps simplify the messages. But you're on a treadmill and you want to have the, this person isn't trying to burn a lot of calories. They're just trying to get to where they need to go immediately. So knowing, okay, if someone has no idea, if they've been taken to your website from a link from somewhere else, they go to your website, okay, well, what is this business? You have to have the name of the business.
That fast too.
Yeah, you have to have the name of the business, and right at the top, you want to have exactly what your business does. Right?
And not in your language,
No.
in the language that your customer uses.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get bogged down in our own terminology, and then people are like, I still don't know what you do.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's
I'll hold my tongue
exactly
again.
That's exactly right. You want to make sure that when people go on there that the words you and your are very present, because you want them to say, okay, they're talking to me. And then they're also understanding, like when you go to the Startup Spokane website, that you see like the Spokane's, I think it's like Spokane's like one-stop shop for all things like business, basically you want to have a very clear understanding of what this is. This is a partnership between Spokane Library, it's powered by your local libraries, and this is basically a free resource for you to help grow your business. Spokane Public Library, luckily libraries already kind of have that, so we don't need to have like a phrase, right? But we need to have things that people are looking for right off the bat, like the catalog search, booking meeting rooms, things like that. Like our top 10 pages are literally our location pages, which is wild. But then also the catalog, meeting spaces, all of that. So you need to make sure that you have all of your main call to actions right at the very front. And you really want to make sure that your website is robust. That is something I will die on that hill. I think that is so important. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I'm dominating.
No, I love it.
I wanted to add one thing to that for everybody here. Like when you create a link to go to your website and whatever user's gonna land on that page, you have to remember that link represents a promise. A promise that you're going to deliver what you said in the link to it. A company like Cooks Illustrated is so guilty of that. It irritates me. They'll say, hey, look at this cookie recipe. You click on it and they're like, blank the whole thing out and say, subscribe. Infuriating. They can give a cookie recipe.
Yeah.
Get Cooks Illustrated through the library.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and on that, I think the other thing, there's this new concept, Google Zero. I don't know if you've heard of this. The idea that
Take it away.
Google will never send you away from Google in the future. That everything you need will be there, but they have to get that information from somewhere, right? And they're usually pulling it from a website.
Yeah.
So even if you think in the future search engines don't want to send you away, they'll want to keep you on page, they still have to get that information from somewhere. And I find businesses all the time, they're like, well, all I need is my Google because it shows my map listing and where I'm at and my phone number. But for Google to know where to put you when somebody searches, you still have to have content.
Yeah.
And even if you think that's the future, you still need a website.
So that kind of dives deeper into like search engine
Totally.
optimization.
And we don't have to talk about that
And
if you don't.
I was like search engine optimization or SEO is also very important, specifically if you have a lot of competitors in the market, like credit unions. You want to make sure that keywords, like for example, when I was building our credit union's website pages, I was going in and I was saying, best car loans Spokane. That had to be in like the title and like the very first sentence that you have on the page. Having those keywords and phrases that people are already looking for on search engines right at the top of your page. And then also hyperlinking keywords and phrases in your pages that take you exactly to the page title. So like if you're saying car loans, you're gonna hyperlink car loans and takes you to a car loans page where the heading is car loans. Like that is, Google loves that, you know, because that's like credibility right there. So that's kind of diving a little bit deeper into a marketing strategy of SEO, and that's free. So you can do that yourself. Understanding SEO or search engine optimization is a little bit more complex, but you can use things like the library's free LinkedIn Learning, all of these different resources that you can then learn about these different marketing strategies. But search engine optimization is, by all intents and purposes, if you have a website, free, because it's just you building your website based on understanding the behavior of the people who are looking for similar things online.
So as we're winding down, we still have like 10 minutes, but I want to ask this one. What's your favorite marketing platform?
Well, I was going to say website because that is true. I think website for sure. But I've really enjoyed diving into Spotify and YouTube a little bit more. YouTube for sure. I just love YouTube for like specifically if you have a very visual thing that can be turned into a 15-second non-skippable or 30-second skippable ad on YouTube. I mean, we did that with our become like how the library helps you be your best self. We did that with that campaign, and that was it was such a success. And then I also think that email is something that you think maybe is going away, but I promise that it is so successful because you can segment your audiences. So like Mark has his own business newsletter, and if you're not on it, talk to us and we'll get you on it. You know, and if you can segment out your emails by saying, okay, I want to send a direct message to these people. Email is such an easy way to do it because you can then send exactly what you're wanting to send to those people, and then you can have a call to action that then takes you to a website that gives you the actual
with
call
a
to
pop-up
action.
to get your email.
Yeah.
But you know, email, I'm talking about this all the time with people. It is so important, and the other reason is it's an owned list. That is something that you have built, and everybody starts at zero. Even Jeff Bezos started at zero. Everybody starts at zero. So it might feel like, oh, I only have 10 or I only have 50 emails, but everybody starts somewhere. But you own that resource. Those are people who've given you permission to contact them. And whether it's MailChimp or Zoho or Klaviyo, whatever it is that you end up using, it doesn't matter because you own that list. And we don't know what's going to happen on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram tomorrow, right? But email, people are still using it.
And there's not an algorithm to email, which is also super important to remember of like, this email hopefully is not going to go to spam, right? But like, I think that, you know, this email is going to go directly into the inbox. And yeah, sometimes people might not click on it, but a lot of people will. Specifically if it's a company they trust and if it's something that catches their eye, right? Like the subject line. So I absolutely love email. I think it's I think it's still very relevant. And I check my email every day, multiple times a day. I know even students, I mean, they have to because of school, you know, so even when you're reaching that younger demographic. But I think email is a really, really key.
And people keep trying to forecast its death, but I don't think it's coming. I know there were schools that weren't even issuing emails to students, and then I go, well, how are you connecting with them? That feels like a mistake to me. But that was like 10 years ago when we thought social media broke everything, and it turned out it really didn't. I mean, it did in some ways, but.
Yeah, so I would say email, and if you want to talk more about that, we can definitely talk more about that because I really love email. And also, it's very affordable because you just have to, I mean, these online platforms, MailChimp, Constant Contact, they're actually really affordable.
And
on
some
a
of them
monthly
have a
basis.
free version that you can get into as
Very
well.
true.
The other thing I would say on that with any of this is you're getting into a platform, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, it's understanding what metrics are normal so that you don't get sideways and think that, oh my gosh, I have a 30% open rate, that must be bad. And you come to find out that like marketers dream of a 20 to 30% open rate. So you want to make sure you understand that. I had a client that came to me, he was getting a 50% open rate on his emails, but was convinced they weren't working. And I was like, there are people who would murder for that level of open rate. Like you have no idea.
Well, industry standard is 21% for
Yeah.
open rates for like marketing in general.
Yeah.
And so I think anything over that is great. But like, let's say, for example, you do like Google display ads. If you get a 1% click-through rate, like,
Right,
that's
but
good.
you might not. You go, what?
You know,
Like, that's
like,
insane.
that's good.
Yeah. And then,
So
you know, yeah. So just
understanding,
totally.
understanding like the and I would say there are tools out there for understanding, okay, well, what is the average stats? Like, what should I be looking at for success rates on this platform? And there are places that you can go to find out that information. When in doubt, I go to like LinkedIn Learning or I just Google it.
Anymore, I ask chat a lot, ChatGPT.
Oh, I
And
do
I don't
that.
always trust it. It's like early Wikipedia. You kind of have to make sure you know where it's coming from, but it does a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.
So, okay, in the last few moments, any questions from the audience before, because I know we've been, like Will and I have kind of hogged the questions, but is there anybody has a question? Anything you want to impart on us? Yeah, oh, we've got the mic, Bev, you gotta wait.
I'd like to go back to your question of how to know which social media.
Oh, yeah. So remind me of you're a physical therapist. Okay, so yeah, I would say it depends.
And wellness.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, and thank you, and wellness, very important. I would say that like for a lot of people, I think X or Twitter is falling kind of to the wayside a lot of the times. But you're also looking at
Say
like
it's
what's
not
your looking at your demographic. Like Facebook is generally maybe like 50 plus these days that a lot of people are on. Instagram is kind of that millennial, TikTok, Gen Z. So it's like what target market are you looking to reach? And like and maybe you're reaching all of them, but what's like your primary, trying to understand what age group, maybe starting off with age group. But then also understanding too, like physical therapy and wellness, there's a lot of visual things that you can do with that. And so maybe leaning into a little bit more of these like videos or educational videos for physical therapy and wellness. I think a lot of people like those short, like you could even just do like a selfie video of you talking about some tips and tricks to help with lower back pain, with headaches, with general wellness tips that you guys really lean into. I would say that doing some, like I personally really love Instagram, but also that's I think because I am a millennial. Whereas my parents really love Facebook, and my intern this last year loved Snapchat and TikTok. Do I think Snapchat's good for businesses? Mostly no.
Yeah.
Mostly no, I would say. I haven't seen a lot of people be successful on Snapchat. It kind of went away for a little bit, and I feel like it's having a resurgence a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would say, for example, I know this is actually one question we forgot to talk about, was like, we launched TikTok as the library because library TikTok was like a huge thing, is a huge thing. You'll have seen a lot of things from like Milwaukee Public Library. They do amazing things. And so we were like, yes, let's get on this train. But then we actually found it really difficult to increase our following and engagement on TikTok.
Because it's not like a local platform. It's such a national. And how much does it help that you're seeing Milwaukee's library? Are you ever going to go there? Like that's always the question I ask.
I think it's like, yes, I will go there, but also as like a vacation thing. Like it's not like a place that I would go to like on the regular. But I like I think the love of reading and love of libraries is a national thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so maybe going back to like what you were talking about is like what's trending in the air of like this national viewpoint of like what's trending, and then leaning into that. And can you lean into that? We've had a little bit of an issue with trying to walk that fine line of, is this copyright material? Like for example, music. Do you have like is there a Creative Commons license on this? You know, can we like in good faith do this? You know, a lot of people are just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it and like ask for forgiveness. So it also depends on your mindset. So a lot of TikTok is using audio overview or using songs that are trending and then putting it to your own things. And so we've kind of struggled to do that a little bit because we care a lot about making sure that we don't use things without permission.
So just real quick to clarify a few things, you've talked about, and this will be probably the last question, you've talked about YouTube, that you've had some campaigns there, Spotify. These are some things that you're doing with a budget, correct? Like you were okay, so I want to clarify that you're not throwing videos up on YouTube and hoping they go viral. You're targeting with a budget to reach this specific audience. And I think people forget that marketing isn't just a magic pill that you get to do, and if it's free and it's going to work and it's going to be amazing, you might have to commit some budget to it.
You do, yes. I mean, all of these big campaigns that I've talked about, we have set aside budget for. Part of it is understanding, okay, how much budget do we want to put where? Like I said, billboards, you're looking at about 10 grand for a really solid billboard campaign where you have maybe 6 different billboards throughout town. Because if you have just one, that's going to be really hard. And billboards go in like increments of like a month. So if you want like a multiple month campaign, $10,000 is with like 6 to 7 billboards, you're looking at a minimum of $10,000. And then also, I would say, you know, for us, a lot of what we did is we allocated a lot of funds towards digital things. And then we wrapped up our most recent Be Your Best Self campaign with a library learning week, where we utilized all of our, we said we got all of our programming and events coordination team on board to then offer all of these amazing programs and events that lean into the idea that the library can help you be your best self. And then we tracked all of the gate count and all of that coming in. And that was kind of a more free way that we could utilize that. But when it comes to digital marketing, I think that is really an affordable place for you to look at. Oftentimes direct mailers, billboards, public print publication, that's extremely expensive. And oftentimes not worth it. If you want to get in print, earned media is the best, which could be sending out press releases, and that's free. Oftentimes people can do feature stories. It's not guaranteed though, like ads, but I would say that digital media is definitely, for me in my experience in these two general careers that I've had, has been the most successful in terms of allocating budget.
Right. All right, round of applause for Alina for coming and talking to us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was outstanding. And a round of applause to Nathan at Slab Visuals, Andrew at Brew Peddler, and Startup Spokane and the Spokane Public Library. We'll do a round of applause for those folks as well. Thank you so much for coming this month. Next month, stay tuned. It'll be more of a happy hour event. We're gonna do in the afternoon, probably at a brewery. I don't know that there'll be a guest. Usually that one tends to just be purely social. Well, I think we're taking August off, and then we're gonna hit in September with a full slate of guests coming up in the fall. So please stay tuned. If you're not getting our newsletter, you can give me your card on the way out. Also, Business Brew has a YouTube channel where all the videos get posted and a LinkedIn profile where you can stay connected and see what's going on. And thank you so much for coming.